This ends with Arman Tsarukyan either detonating the lightweight division or being erased from it completely. And don't act surprised, because that ending has already happened. The moment he said Justin Gaethje would fight him, but Paddy Pimblett would dodge him. So now we have to sift through the wreckage to understand how one sentence turned into a full-blown exposure of fear, favoritism, and a division quietly panicking behind closed doors while pretending everything is fine.
Because that Justin, he's gonna fight with me, but Paddy, if Paddy wins, he's gonna try to avoid me and trying not to fight me, because he's not man like Justin.
Arman didn't just speak, he accused. And when a #1 contender looks straight into the camera and says one man has the courage to fight him and the other doesn't, that's not just confidence, that's a direct challenge to the UFC's entire narrative. Because now, every matchmaking decision looks suspect, and every delay smells like protection. And tell me why no one rushed to deny it immediately if it was nonsense. Silence right now feels very loud.
I think that there's a difference between having a meritocracy in sports and trying to make justifications for making the fights that are going to be most profitable for the business. Does that make sense? Because, I think, when you have this star and all these people that love tuning in for Paddy Pimblett fights, I'm not trying to necessarily agree with Arman that the UFC wants Paddy to be the champion of that division. I just think they want Paddy to be interesting enough to continue making fights that are going to make them money. And I think there's a slight difference with that. And I think that, I think they took the threat of Gaethje retiring as a serious one if he wasn't going to fight for some kind of a belt in his name.
Here's where it gets uncomfortable. The second Arman questioned Paddy's willingness, the conversation instantly swerved away from fighting and into business logic, star power, profitability, and fan interest. And that pivot tells you everything you need to know. Because if merit truly ruled this sport, then no one would need to explain why the best contender might be skipped. Yet here they are, doing exactly that.
Gaethje's a big star, so is Paddy Pimblett. Are those the two best guys that should get the next shot against Topuria? Probably not. Arman is clearly, I think, the best fighter who isn't the champ in that division. But I think that obviously he has an issue with maybe people not caring as much about his fights as other people. So I think that's the issue. I don't believe it's because of the headbutt. It was like he got injured and didn't fight in the last one. Then the next excuse was the headbutt. I don't buy those as excuses. I think they're trying to make justifications for Paddy Pimblett or Gaethje, because they are bigger names than Arman. They want to give one of those guys the shot. I think that's what that is. And I think Paddy and Gaethje should be competitive. I don't think Arman versus either of those guys would be competitive. I think Arman would.
They say it calmly, like it's reasonable, like it's normal. But listen carefully, because they're admitting that popularity can outweigh danger, that being interesting matters more than being inevitable. And Arman is inevitable. That's the problem. Because he doesn't bring the chaos you can market. He brings chaos you can't control. And nah, that can't be comfortable for anyone planning the next 2 years of title fights.
Title, so we have an interim title shot. But I think we still got a really, really fun, exciting fight. Justin Gaethje is as exciting of a fighter as you're ever going to find. And Paddy Pimblett is, I don't know that he gets enough credit for his kind of all gas, no brakes style. I think at this point, I think Paddy has done a pretty good job of quieting a lot of the critics, myself included. I think after the Jared Gordon fight, I think people believed maybe we'd seen the ceiling for Paddy, and that's about as good as he was going to be.
Then Gaethje's retirement threat slides into the story like a loaded weapon on the table. Because suddenly, this isn't just about who deserves what. It's about leverage, and fighters with leverage. fighters with win streaks get patience speeches. And if you don't think that changes everything, then you're not paying attention to how fast the tone shifts whenever Gaethje's name is mentioned.
Really excited about that fight. I know that Paddy Pimblett's going to want to take it to the mat, but Justin Gaethje's a Division I All-American. That if he doesn't want to get taken down, it's going to be really, really tough to take Justin down and to hold him there. So I'm really...
By the way, before we dive in, 99.8% of the people watching right now aren't subscribed. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any upcoming MMA news. And without further ado, let's dive into it.
When analysts openly admit Arman is probably the best lightweight who isn't champion, but then shrug and say people don't care as much, that's the moment the sport exposes itself, because skill is being acknowledged while opportunity is being denied. And that contradiction is dangerous, because once fans see it, they don't unsee it. And I swear, someone knows that reckoning is coming.
I want Justin to beat Paddy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What?
because that Justin, he's gonna fight with me, but Paddy, if Paddy wins, he's gonna try to avoid me and trying not to fight me because he's not man like Justin.
Anthony Smith tries to smooth it over by selling excitement, vibes, and fun matchups. But even that feels like a pressure release valve, because nobody's arguing that entertainment is wrong, yet nobody is addressing the accusation. And that avoidance tells me this whole situation is being walked around carefully, like there's a fragile plan nobody wants shattered too early.
I think he's a good fighter, but he's not unlike me at all. So the fact that I've got Ellis playing Justin Gaethje for me, and then I've got Luke, who's a better, faster, more powerful technical striker than him, I think it all goes into my favour.
You got Luke Riley above Justin. You're rating him above Justin Gaethje in the striking department already in his career, you reckon?
Yeah. Luke Riley's been fighting Thai in Thailand since he was 8 years old, lad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When Justin Gaethje was wrestling, lad, Luke was fighting Thai and then doing amateur boxing, and Luke's striking is a class above, and people are going to see it over the next couple of years, lad. He's the striking version of me. His striking's phenomenal, lad, and I just can't wait for him to show everyone how good he is. And in a fight or two, he'll be fighting ranked opponents, lad, and he'll climb that featherweight rankings faster than I climb the lightweight ones. Promise you that.
When the breakdown turns technical and wrestling gets mentioned, the mood shifts, because now we're not talking hype anymore, we're talking outcomes. And deep down, everyone knows how Arman's grappling changes careers, which is exactly why his name keeps floating around without ever being locked in. And nah, don't pretend that's a coincidence. Patterns don't repeat this cleanly by accident.
I want to fight him, lad. I want to fight him.
Yeah.
Because it'll be funny once I beat Gaethje, everyone will be like, oh, Gaethje's done, he's past his best, this and that. But then when I beat Ilya, what's the excuse going to be then? It'll be, oh, Ilya was never that good. That's why Paddy beat him.
Yeah, he's short. He got dropped. He got dropped by Jai Herbert.
Yeah, he was never a lightweight, all this and that. That's what it'll be. Watch, you know what I mean? The goalposts get moved.
Arman openly saying he wants Gaethje to win isn't respect, it's strategy. Because a Gaethje win forces the UFC into a corner where excuses evaporate, while a Paddy win creates narrative fog, delays, and conveniently movable goalposts. And if that sounds paranoid, then explain why it makes so much sense. Because this sport has a long memory of doing exactly that.
Hand time. Very nice, Justin.
Paddy's response only deepens the weirdness. Instead of confronting the avoidance talk head-on, he talks about striking, training partners, future dominance, and that's fine until you realize he's arguing against criticism that hasn't even happened yet, which feels like someone shadowboxing with ghosts. And when fighters do that, it usually means pressure is already cracking something inside.
Everyone's favourite vlogger, King of the Mat. I don't even know what can be asked today. 5 weeks out from fighting Justin. I am very tired. Had a big day's training already. Probably not gonna not do it though, am I? Can't not do it. It's a nice calorie burner. It's a good workout and it's good fun. We have a King of the Mat every year and we have a grading every.
When he jokes about beating Gaethje and then Islam Makhachev and predicts the excuses ahead of time, I get this cold feeling, because that's either supreme confidence or someone bracing for backlash they secretly expect. And nah, I don't know which it is yet, but I know preloaded excuses usually exist for a reason, and that reason isn't comfort.
I do not know if Justin, but it's going to be one of the two, make no mistake. Justin Gaethje is either going to be champion of the world or he's going to be retired. The next time we have this talk, the next time we get together and we're talking about a year in review or a year in preview, the great year to come, Justin Gaethje is either going to be champion of the world or he's going to be retired. And he's going to kick things off with an opportunity to be the champion of the world, which he earned a very hard way. By the way, that division is so difficult. 155 pounds. That is so hard. So now he's gonna go in there with Paddy. They're going to call that the interim championship. I don't get it. I'm going to call it interim championship too, but I don't get it. You got one champion.
Then the cameras show fatigue, vlogs, tired smiles, and everyone laughs like it's harmless content. But timing matters, because showing exhaustion this close to a massive fight feels like narrative control. Like someone wants you to see the grind before something shifts. And I keep thinking we're being prepared for a twist nobody has said out loud yet.
And the interim champion is almost the title of grace. It's a title of compassion. Like, there's not any amongst us that don't know what the word champion means. There's not any amongst us that believe you can have two champions at the same time. We know that that's impossible, but sometimes you show grace, right? There's something happening with your current champion and he's not able to make that walk. So we have an interim champion. And I like it. I'm for it. I'm one of the guys that likes the interim belt. I only share for you that in the case of Justin Gaethje, if we're at the same point at this time next year, there's got to be an undisputed belt by then, doesn't it?
Chael Sonnen drops the real bomb when he says Gaethje is either champion or retired, because that kind of binary pressure distorts everything: matchmaking, urgency, risk tolerance, and suddenly protecting a star doesn't feel optional anymore. It feels necessary. And that's when competitive purity quietly steps out of the room without anyone announcing it.
Very telling in this fight.
Yeah. And now let's move to intangibles, because I think, so there's some obvious ones.
Yeah.
Justin Gaethje hasn't been all that active lately. You know, when you look back, one of the things that I like to do personally is watch the last 3 fights of each fighter, you know, because that's going to be the most recent body of work, and then some of their training videos that are current. You know, when I was looking at it, it actually surprised me that Dustin Poirier fight, which would have been the third most recent, was in 2023.
Wow. Yeah.
So, you know, we're now in 2026. So Justin Gaethje has not been all that active. So we have inactivity from Justin Gaethje. We have momentum for Paddy. Paddy's riding high. Paddy doesn't care what the world says about his opponent's record. He doesn't care what the world says about getting Dana White privilege. He doesn't care about any of that.
No.
Paddy's riding high. Paddy feels like he's the best fighter in the world. He's giving respect to Gaethje, but not too much. He's coming in there to knock him out.
The interim belt talk is where legitimacy starts wobbling, because everyone knows what a champion is, and everyone knows what interim really means: grace, delay, compromise. And when people defend it this hard, it's usually because they know it's shaky. And I keep wondering, who benefits most if this limbo stretches longer than it should?
Win record. So that's another X factor. Now, those are bads on the Justin side. Let's get to bads on the Paddy side. we do look at the last 3 opponents of Paddy the Baddy, and then we look at the body of work of Justin Gaethje.
Right.
As you said, Justin Gaethje hadn't fought anybody outside of the top 5 in almost a damn decade.
Right. That's
so,
ridiculous.
You know,
in the murderer's row of 155.
And he's fought the best people at 155, period. Many of them he's fought multiple times.
Right.
So Paddy the Baddy is going to have a disadvantage. This will be the biggest fight Paddy the Baddy has ever been in. This will not be the biggest fight Justin Gaethje has ever been in.
Correct.
He's been in undisputed title fights with one of the greatest of all time in Khabib. He's been in there with top Dustin Poirier multiple times, Max Holloway, you name it.
Won an interim belt and put it on the ground.
Exactly. This Justin Gaethje has been there, done that, gotten the t-shirt, and it's been a decade since he did.
Both have fights coming up very, very soon. We know Paddy's fighting Justin Gaethje. And if he beats Gaethje, he becomes the interim champion. After that, Dan Hooker's off his radar, right? He will not get to fight Dan Hooker. The only person he's going to fight next is either Ilia Topuria, if Ilia comes back soon, which I hope he does, because he only just became the champion, or it's going to be Arman Tsarukyan, right? Now, Arman Tsarukyan, a lot of people felt that he should have got the title shot. As we know, there was a few circumstances pulling out of the fight. He headbutted Dan Hooker when he beat him recently. And Dana White just kind of like admitted that definitely played a factor into him not getting a title shot.
Did the headbutt play any factor in the decision to not go with him? It did, right?
Momentum versus inactivity gets framed like analysis, but it's really a ticking clock because Paddy is rising fast and Gaethje is racing time, while Arman waits frozen in place. And that imbalance creates decisions that feel rushed and fearful and fear-driven. Matchmaking always explodes later, never immediately, which is what scares me most right now.
But anyway, if Paddy beats Justin, none of this matters because they ain't going to fight. But if he loses, I think we might see this fight happen pretty quickly because remember, 1 week after UFC 324, I'll be there. The week after, I'll be there as well in Sydney, Australia. UFC 325 is happening. Dan Hooker's going up against Benoit Saint-Denis. Tough stylistic matchup for both men. Benoit Saint-Denis is going to try and grapple him. He's going to try and take him down because on the feet, Dan Hooker probably has his way. But Dan Hooker's not an easy man to take down. Remember, the man has a victory over Mateusz Gamrot. And yes, okay, Charles Oliveira just went out there, dominated and finished Gamrot pretty easily, respectfully to Gamrot, right? But that's Charles Oliveira, right? The man with some of the best grappling and the most submissions in the history of the sport.
When resumes get compared, the gap is obvious, and nobody denies it. They just talk around it. And talking around truth is how you delay consequences. But delayed consequences hit harder. As this division keeps moving without resolving its core tension, I can't shake the feeling someone is lying. Someone is stalling. And when that finally breaks, it's not going to be quiet.